Hi and welcome back to my channel. Trying out a new angle. I don't think it's gonna work, but once I have a bunch of books over here, I might try out this angle. Now I'm coming to you with the next installment of recent reads, and I'm doing it right away because I'm making myself a plan so I don't have a whole bunch that I have to remember. The first book that I'm going to talk about, the only one in this little clip, is The Mysteries of Thorn Manor. It is a little novella that was released last year that follows up on Sorcery of Thorn, which is the only Margaret Rogerson book that I've read, but I really enjoyed it. So I wanted to return to this. I have the ARC of it. I didn't read it as an ARC. I thought I had a Kindle copy from the library. Not really sure why I checked it out from the library if I had an ARC. My brain sometimes does not work. That being said, it did not have a Kindle version, so I had to read it on my computer, but that worked out all right. Very short and sweet. This little thing crops up and Nathaniel and Elizabeth have to work together to figure it out, and it's this little touching love story and brings up all the things and loving the books, and it just was a fun read. And there was a little bit that was intriguing at the end that can still go like with the wrapped up contained story, but also could open the door for more in this world, and I would not be disappointed in that. Okay, so I'm back on Tuesday morning with another book finished. This one I read as an audiobook. It finishes a series, but this was definitely a companion novel. It's not a follow-up to the previous book, and that is The Last Secret You'll Ever Keep. It's part of the Jane Anonymous series, and Jane Anonymous was a book that I read a few years ago. It was part of the SEISL list, and it dealt with a girl who had been kidnapped, had a little bit of Stockholm Syndrome, and with now back home, was rescued, freed, something like that. And there were dual timelines of the then and the now. This book follows a similar format, but with a different protagonist. It's a few years on, and Jane from Jane Anonymous has set up this website with a chat room where people can go for support and help, and that features quite heavily in this book. I don't think I'll be holding on to this book. I might not. I haven't put it through Copile yet, so I don't know what my overall rating is. But by reading this book, I discovered another trope that I really dislike. So the first that I realized was I dislike amnesia, especially when it erases character growth. Don't like that. This one reaffirmed that I do not like the unreliable narrator trope. I know people use it a lot, and it's used a lot in thrillers, which this purports to be. I just don't like it. There were a handful of things in here that were never proven, and you never know, like there's doubting about what she went through was real. And so this is a girl who, when she was 12 or 13, lost her parents in a tragic house fire and has suffered a lot of PTSD because of that, and went to a special school for like equipped to help people who have gone through different trauma. And she's about to graduate. Something happens that she's believed initially, but then someone doubts her, and because they can't find various things about this time where she was captured and put in a well and then escapes on her own, nobody believes her, and so she's dealing with that as well. But she has various trauma responses that make her into an unreliable narrator, and there's a few things about the incident that she remembers clearly, but then the author specifically puts in that are disproven. And so even by the time you get to the end and the different things are shown, there's still that little doubt in the back of my head that's like, is she a reliable narrator? And I just don't like that. This, I mean, it kept me intrigued. Things ended up making sense by the time you got to the end of it, except for the fact that she's an incredibly frustrating main character, because apparently her parents, when they were alive, like her mom when she was high school, college age, had been attacked, and so with her they have all kinds of rules to keep her safe, and yet throughout the entire novel she keeps making these decisions that are clearly against those rules that she says that she follows. In her room she has all sorts of things to keep her safe. She has duct tape around the windows, she has like knives and stuff, different things to keep her safe. But then she'll go out on her own with no one around her. And especially the thing at the end here, You're supposed to understand what motivates her to do this certain thing to help this certain person. But at the same time, I'm like, this makes no sense that you would do that, because you know this is stupid to do, and yet you still do it. And then you pay the consequences for it. It honestly does not make a lot of sense. I think I've talked myself into unhauling this book, but it was definitely worth the read to figure some more things out about my reading taste. I think doing this once worked, but doing it again, even with a different scenario, didn't really work. Okay, I'm back with the next reading update. That is The Devil's Highway by Luis Alberto Urrea. This I knew was gonna have a lot of hard stuff. It talks about this stretch of land that's just so inhospitable I think along the Arizona-Mexico border. But it also centers the story of the Yuma 14. And as he was talking about this, I started to remember little bits and pieces, because I think I was high school age when this actually happened. This is an older book, a backlist. So he uses their story to tell a little bit about the history of this area, and also obviously tell their story and things that have happened before and because of it. And I really wanted to appreciate this book. Like, I appreciate it, but as it is, say, enjoy. I wanted to have a better experience than I did with the book. It wasn't bad, but it was a little odd to me. One of the biggest things that I appreciate in his writing, his skill as an author, but also it was a little off-putting to me, was as he was telling different parts of the story, his narrative would morph like a chameleon to sound like it's telling, you know, the side or the beliefs of whoever is, you know, whichever role, like the border patrol or the men themselves or whatever. And I admire that skill, because he very clearly transformed his writing, his narrative into that, and you could tell that that was it. But it just was a little off-putting, and so much of his writing was just so stunning and very well told. But then the epilogue, I don't even remember what it was about, but it just felt, let me tack on this weird thing that's connected sort of to this, and it kind of left it going, why didn't you end it without the epilogue? So really good, a lot of really hard, important information, but there were just a few things that were just kind of not that great for me. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be keeping this one. I believe I rated it 3.5 stars, but I don't think I put it through Copilot yet. Okay, so I'm back with my last update of this recent reads, and I have got a lot of books to talk about, because yesterday was the first gym of Pokeathon, which is a Patreon only, members only readathon for patrons of JD Ray Reads. It's year-long, but there are gyms throughout the month where you earn extra points for reading on those days. And of course, I saved a whole bunch of short, quick reads for that day. Technically, I'm doing it not just a strict 24 hours. I'm doing it as in 24 hours of reading, hopefully in 48. I haven't gotten any reading yet today just because I've been so tired. I stayed up way too late last night because I kept falling asleep as I was reading, and I wanted to finish the book. This is basically what I read in 13 hours worth of the 24 hours for this gym, and I read some really good ones in there. So first of all, we have Lore Olympus Volume 3. I just literally got an email from Olympus that was talking about the fact that they are doing the next volume, and I kept waiting and waiting and hadn't purchased this for this reason. That's because they're sending out volumes 3 and 4 at the same time. So I'll have this one. Might give it away, might still decide to do the Olympus. I haven't decided yet. Anyway, volume 3 just continues this story, and I really enjoy the art style and the way that Rachel Smith is building the relationships between Persephone and Hades and all the other characters that get woven in. I've heard some people talk about, especially in the second one, there was too much that was not Hades and Persephone. But what I love about this, and I would actually love more, is if we learn more about the stories and Lore Olympus becomes even more expansive of all of Olympus, because it's called Lore Olympus. It's not just, you know, something, a title specifically related to Persephone and Hades. But anyway, really enjoyed this, and this was a quick read. Took me about 45 minutes to read. Next we have Gone Crazy in Alabama by Rita Williams Garcia. This is the conclusion to this trilogy. This is also a Coretta Scott King Award winner. I did read it for both for Book-a-thon and also for Middle Grade March, an award winner, not the Newbery Award winner, and also for Final Book Support Group. This checked off 3 boxes here. This was less big issue in real life than the first 2. In the first book, they go out to California to spend time with their mom, who left when the youngest was only a few months old, and she's involved in the Pink Panther movement. She lives out in Oakland, and so it dealt a lot with that. In the second book, you meet their uncle, who has just come back from Vietnam and is dealing with a lot of PTSD and drug addiction from all of his trying to deal with all of that. This is more slice of life, and I enjoyed it. Like, there's some things that happen in here, like there's a tornado, there's sibling relationships. This just feels very down to earth and real exploration of these different characters, and a fitting conclusion to all of these different threads that Rita Williams Garcia has had in this trilogy. Next we have Anne of Greenville. I did mistakenly think that this was a middle grade book. It is not. Yes, I was intrigued because it says Anne of Greenville, and that's the name of the city where I live. This is not a specific Greenville mentioned in here. It's supposed to be a small town, and I realized as I was reading it that it's a retelling or a reimagining of Anne of Green Gables. And different names of different characters were just so fun to see in here. So Anne, the titular Anne, she is the adopted daughter of 2 women who move around a lot, mainly for one of her mom's jobs, who is an educator, and she's just recently gotten the assistant principalship at the high school in this small town. Her name is Anne Shirley, obviously, and she's very unique, very boisterous, very loud and out there, and that does not fit with the very racist, homophobic, etc. town. She is biologically related to one of her moms, I forget which one, but her biological parents, one of whom is half Japanese, were killed in a car accident when she was very young, and so her 2 moms adopt her then. She herself is queer and very loud and proud and just very unique, and there's a lot of people that don't like that. One of the things that I loved when I realized the character that Tamaki reimagined, the principal, Rachel Lynde. If you know, you know. There's just so many things just dropped in here from the story that I really love, because I love Anne of Green Gables. And I thought this was a really fun but hard-hitting reimagining of Anne of Green Gables. I mean, Ellen Montgomery would never do anything like this. But some of it does feel like it's way over the top and in your face with different messages, but then you step back and you think, wait a second, Anne would be like this as well. Anne of Green Gables. She was very, very loud, very, this is what I believe, and everyone else should believe this as well. So I enjoyed it. Next we have book 2 in the Up and Under series, Along the Saltwater Sea. I kept writing across the Saltwater Sea. I mean, I was close. Both prepositions both start with A. This is continuing the story of Avery and Zip, and on this one they spend about half of it on a ship, and it's further exploring the mythology of the world. I thought it was a really unique exploration, and I really love how A. Deborah Baker, or Shauna McGuire, keeps bringing in all of these different mythologies, and it's like, wait, that's a fairy tale. That can't be true. But oh wait, this is a fairy tale. This whole book is a fairy tale. So I thought it was fascinating. Really quick read. Next we have one that I thought was absolutely adorable, and yet another winner from this author, A Rover Story by Jessamine Warga. So in this, the main character is the Mars rover. And I thought for sure that I remembered a Mars rover being named Resilience, but apparently it's not a real thing. So most of the book, as I was reading, I was thinking it was a real thing until I looked it up and realized, oh no, it's not a real thing. So in this, Jessamine Warga takes some real events, real Mars rover, real science, but also takes some artistic liberty. And I thought it was really fascinating the way that she, yes, anthropomorphized these different vehicles, but also brought in the human element with the daughter of one of the programmers writing to Resilience, and it showed a really long progression of time. The daughter of the programmer goes from being in 6th grade to being in her 30s, but you don't have her perspective as much. It's very much supposed to be a rover's story, so Resilience's story, and I just thought it was absolutely heartwarming and adorable. And the last book that I read, the one that I kept falling asleep while reading, was Race to the Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. The way that this story unfolded and then wrapped up, I don't know if it's actually a series. I'll have to look. Normally the ones that he does, they are completely wrapped up. However, I really enjoyed this exploration of Navajo or Dene mythology. In the author's note, Rebecca Roanhorse mentions that, well, she is not Dene. Her husband is, and so is her daughter, obviously. She is, I forget which tribe, but also half black, which is the same for the best friend of the main character in here. And these two characters, they attend a tribal school, a charter school, and something has happened to where she can now see monsters. And she's like, I don't know what's going on. And her dad, his characterization in here for the parts that he's in at the beginning and the end, those two halves don't seem to fit, but I'll let that go. But her mom disappeared when she was very, very young. Her brother is only 10 months younger than her, and he's a character in here. And through this story, they have to go through a series of trials because she's trying to save her dad, who is sort of, he's taken by one of the, like the big bad in this story. And I just really loved the exploration of this character, this culture, I should say, and the way that she grew as a character throughout the book. I thought it was fantastic. And there were some really good side characters and some funny lines that made me laugh out loud. And whenever a book does that, I'm guaranteed to enjoy it. So I didn't mention any ratings yet because this is Sunday. I literally finished that last one very late last night, and I haven't put any of them through Cawpile, but they were all hits. So I imagine they will all be 4 stars and above. So I have read a lot this week, mostly in one day, but I knew that was going to happen. So I'm looking forward to this coming week because it is a shorter week for me. The last day is a teacher work day where I'm going to get lots of work done, hopefully. And also one of the days during the week, I'm going to do evaluation observations of other teachers, so I won't be with the students. And then in 2 weeks, or a week and a half, a week-ish, I should say, spring break. I'm so looking forward to that. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.